Each new version of ACT released over the past 2 or 3 years has included a significant number of enhancements that empower mobile and web-based users. So of course in the mobile context we've seen the introduction of HTML5 as a coding system, which means that the database is presented to mobile users in a format that's usable in a mobile environment. So if people are using an iPhone or an Android, they can just drive the whole system with their thumbs quite easily. And of course in version 16 we saw the introduction of greater capability for mobile users to manage companies and groups as well as contacts and opportunities. So that functionality is developing apace. Certainly through the browser as well, we're getting greater capability delivered to the user, but also enhanced administrative functions as well. In version 16 we saw the introduction of define fields and design layouts to the browser view, so administrators can actually create new database fields and customize layouts through the browser, whereas previously all that would have had to be done on the local application on the machine where the database was installed. Also through the browser in version 17 we have a facility to import data from an external file. So under the tools menu you can now see import. This is fairly rudimentary in that we can import data only from a CSV file, not from another ACT database, not from a Excel file, not from Outlook contacts. But of course if you've prepared your file for import in Excel, you can simply save that file as a CSV file before importing it. So here's a simple example of an Excel spreadsheet with some basic contact information. I've also added a column with referred by, so when I've imported this data I can track it and find the records by searching on the referred by field. So all you do is prepare the data file in Excel and save as a CSV file. So I've just called this web import and saved it onto my desktop as a CSV file. So in the import wizard then, so tools import in ACT version 17, the wizard simply asks me to locate the file for import. So I'm just going to browse to the web import CSV on my desktop. Once I've selected the file, I can choose whether to perform a typical or a custom import. This is the same as if I was doing it on the local application. The typical import would look at the column headers of my import file and try to ascertain which ACT field to map it to. I'd rather tend to select custom because that allows me just to double check that the fields are being mapped from the spreadsheet to the correct ACT fields. So when I see the map I can see that most of the fields have mapped across okay, but there are one or two that need a little bit of help. So person, of course in ACT that would map to contact. Postal code, close but not quite, that would map to postcode. And a state there would be of course county in the UK. So I confirm my map is as I want it to be, click next. The last stage of the process is where we tell the system how we want it to deal with duplicate records. So first of all you've got to consider what is a duplicate record, and this is still controlled through the local application by an administrator under Tools Preferences in the Admin tab. There's a button there titled Duplicate Settings, and of course you can use up to 3 ACT fields to determine what is used to check for duplicates. So typically that might be a combination of contact, company, postcode perhaps. So that's used to determine what is a duplicate. This area in the import wizard is used to determine what the system will do when it encounters one. So the upper drop down here, if source records from the import file match destination records in ACT, merge would be the safest option. So this would take elements of data in the import file and merge them into fields in the existing ACT record, but only if those fields are blank. The other alternative options there are replace, so we can overwrite what's in ACT with what's in the import file, or do not change, leave the existing record unaltered. The lower drop down there allows me to determine what would happen if I'm importing data from a file that doesn't exist in ACT. And of course the default is add, create new ACT records, but if I was only using a file to update existing records where necessary, I might choose do not add to make sure that no records were created. So I'm going to leave the settings as they are. Click on next. It gives me a summary of what I've asked the system to do, and just one more button runs the import. So as you can see, it's very quick, very seamless, very easy to use process. Once the import is completed, I can quickly locate those records by performing a lookup on the referred by field. So of course the referred by field is where I'd merged in the name of the import file. So I'm going to search for records where the referred by field begins with APFW, which is what I'd merged into that column on my CSV file. And there of course are my newly imported records.